as the Spurs turn their sights toward the New Orleans Pelicans and try to break off a 2-game schneid. One which they led for a long time, one in which they got pantsed. New Orleans is not the easiest of all candidates to take on. That's a good basketball team win altogether. But let's not focus on them. Let's focus on us. I have a broad question for you as we head into the second half of the season. The ceremonial end of the first half will be the All-Star game here in a couple of weeks and the trade deadline. When will the Spurs have an All-Star who's not named Victor?
That's a tough question.
Oh, maybe I should frame it. Is there another All-Star on the Spurs roster other than Victor?
Yeah. So the answer to your question is whenever they trade for somebody in the summer, presuming that, it goes somewhat relatively chalk the way we think that it will. Homegrown player currently on the roster. I think the best chance is Devin.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, but the answer is no. They don't have one. The next non-Wemby Spurs All-Star. That's a difficult sentence to put together in your mind.
Kind of
is TBD. Is currently in another uniform.
Not the best situation to be in, is it? And as we look at the rebuild and where we're supposed to be.
But if somebody had asked you, this is an exaggerated way to put this, but if somebody had asked you the same question about Milwaukee a year ago, I think you could have similarly, answered it. Like you could have said the Knicks.
They had Drew Holiday. They have All-Stars.
No, but I mean, if you're playing the All-Star game, because that's the way you phrase the question, you could have talked yourself into other players making it over Drew, over Chris, over even Lopez. If you're really stretching, you're talking about serious difference makers. And and again, we're talking about two different planes of discussion here. But bringing in Dame gave them a second All-Star. It was a similar kind of situation.
Not an All-Star, a star.
Well,
Big difference.
But again, to answer the question, and so this is that, but like 4,000 degrees lower. So you're in this case, Wemby is your Giannis. Not that he's that good. I hope the analogy is still sticking and everyone's with my line of thought here. You need to find your Dame. Not that you're actually finding Dame, but you need to find that version,
the Robin,
of
the
player
Batman.
For your team. Right.
Gotcha. And there's not that. You see
Might
that?
be Trae Young.
Maybe. Rudolph Gonzalez comes in on our YouTube feed. Devin, and then in 3 years,
Blake.
Boy, I like Blake Wesley. And if it turns out to be 100%, maybe he is my Jalen Brunson yet again. I'd like to think that. But I came to the realization as the reserves were announced and Victor wasn't mentioned. I went back and looked at previous rookies of the year because I think it would be a very weird scenario for Wemby not to get it, especially after you see what's going to happen for him over the weekend. Previous rookies of the year don't really lend itself to victory. And if you're not winning, well, like or all-star appearances, like Malcolm Brogdon, remember he was rookie of the year.
Right.
I mean, there's a lot of rookies of the year. LaMelo.
I get what you're saying. It isn't like a full-on like transitory thing into like bona fide superstar.
No, like Paolo was not an all-star last year. Rookie of the year, lots of accolades. He's all-star as a sophomore.
This is a great way to put this, or to look at this, like, and see. So, Scotty Barnes,
but nobody looked at those guys as transitional and transcendent.
Right. The Ja thing is obviously the Ja thing, but I mean that fits, that checks the box of like, you knew he was a budding superstar when
right.
He won Rookie of the Year.
It helped.
Luka the same way before him.
He was the last next to come through the pipeline.
Where it fully worked out, obviously.
Right. And, and lived up to expectations. He's been everything as expected. Rookie of the Year, kept improving, all NBA, all of that, which is the track that you expect Wemby to be on. I mean, but the track that you expect them to be on is not the traditional NBA track. You've got to earn your bones. You don't get to be an all-star as a rookie. That's just, unless you are on a winning basketball team doing winning things with a lot of minutes. You don't get to be, or you get voted on. But if you're picked, you got to be on a winning team, and that just hasn't been the case.
Yeah,
and Wemby wasn't going to get in. As a realist, you looked at that and go, it didn't get in. Now,
do they win tonight?
Do they win tonight? Now, there's the opportunity to kind of prove folks wrong, which it might be some good locker room material. When we looked at this 7-game stand and we said, it could be 3, maybe 4 wins, nobody looked at New Orleans as a win.
When we've been trying to find our way to 3 wins in the homestand, and this was never one, to your point, that we said, oh, they got this.
Yeah.
And they have.
And I don't believe my stance has changed on this.
So they've gotten 2 wins in the homestand, although they blew the chance to get. They got Portland and Minnesota. They blew Washington. We could have started the week, Rob, with the 3. You know what I mean? We could have been done. You know what I mean? Could have turned the test in early and just kind of sat back and watched everybody else wither. So they're sitting on 2. New Orleans tonight. They got Cleveland tomorrow, and that's it. They got to get one of these for us to have been right that they get 3.
Well, if they're going to get it tonight, the Spurs are going to have to put on their big boy pants and go out and be men in the paint with Zion and Valanciunas. Those last time we played, Jonas dominated not just kind of owned it. He put up a fence, he put up a mailbox, and he owned the paint. It was an embarrassment. It was a man amongst boys. Go back and look at the highlights of what happened to the Spurs on just on the boards. So if they're going to win tonight, the things that we've been mad at are going to have to not only disappear, but they're going to have to get good all of a sudden.
To your point,
look at what he's doing to the Spurs.
To your point, in December, guess the total rebounds that they had.
I don't recall. I just remember, oh my gosh, will somebody block out or get to the paint because Wemby is getting killed.
51 total rebounds for the Pelicans.
So this is the kind of game.
Jonas had 15 on his own. I mean, you're right. Like you got to get dirty in this game. I mean, you got to find a way. That's embarrassing. I mean, I don't mean for a rookie, it's hard to embarrass Wemby, but Joel Embiid did a pretty good job. But you got to find a way, man. You can lose, and we'll cope ourselves into oblivion, but you can't get lambasted. You can't get just your car keys taken from you. You got to put up a fight, and they didn't against the Pelicans last time.
And as a guy who has now relegated this season into the same situation as last, like this is not about wins and losses every day. It's about individual and small victories. And if I'm Pop, I'm looking at this going, all right, tonight, in my mind, my small victory will be we are even with rebounds and we own the defensive glass. At the very least, we own the defensive glass. Now, offense is about want to. That'll show me where we are, but defense is just about execution. Just put your ass into somebody's back or front and keep them away. That's at the end of the day. You can have schemes and everything else, but that's rebounding. So if I'm looking at that, and then the other thing, plan A is that. Plan B is you're gonna have to defend the line. The Pelicans shoot a lot of threes and they shoot them well. So those things that we saw when they were on those little runs and the surprise wins, those things, they're capable of it. We've seen it. But this will be a big boy win tonight. This won't be we got hot from 3 or Devin found his range or Keldon was suddenly getting the and ones and finally finishing on a more regular basis. It won't be because of that. It's because they get in people's grills and they play the kind of defense that they've been trying to get to and periodically have reached it. But that's the only way
great about this.
No,
I was feeling like moderately, barely, teenily, barely bit optimistic, but you kind of squashed that.
But see what but the thing that makes it so galling is I saw it even in the last game. It is feasible to go put on your big boy pants and go, no, that's the problem. Right. And then I've seen it not show up at all. Like none of it, not once, not all game, where you saw helping the help. You saw doing your job so help wasn't required. You saw keeping your eyes open and knowing where the ball was and not getting backdoor cut over and over to the point where they dunked on you so much, you saw their waistline more than you saw their number. Over and over and over. Put on your big boy pants and go play professional basketball. They're paying you to do it. Go do it.
Well, and especially you've put out 2 real stinkers. I mean, maybe not 2 full stinkers, but you were nowhere. You tried to put lipstick on the pig that was the Orlando game, and I wasn't having any of it. I mean, they allowed a 17-0 run. I mean, so don't act like there was some good in that game. It was all empty calories. That's all it was. It was just eating celery. That's all that 21-2 run that they had was. We didn't like it. We didn't enjoy it. We were just hoping that there were wings to follow. That's all it really was. All right. So that stunk. And they had the complete pee your pants meltdown in the fourth quarter against Washington. And so, I mean, it's been a little bit. I mean, it's been a week since they've, and even, I don't want to now take credit away from them that I properly gave them for the win against Minnesota last Saturday. But that was just, the mechanical bull. They just held on, and set the new, club record. And congrats, but they haven't had a sustainable feel to them in a very long time.
Tonight,
and they need that tonight, to your point.
The night that Wemby hung 33 on Joel Embiid, that's the way I'm looking back on that game. The night that,
so you're discounting that Embiid went for 70. Is that what you're saying? Like,
I look back on it on the night as the night that Wemby hung 33 on the MVP. That's the night, the way I'm going to frame it in my mind, and I hope that he does. But what Pop did to him that night was a bit of a baptism, a bit of, okay, if you want to be something, this is what something looks like. Go do it by yourself. And he was forced a lot of the time alone on Embiid and got abused both in the paint and out. Tonight, I would like to see the same thing with Keldon on Zion.
I really have no interest in this. I mean, there's no need for this. What good does that serve? Brian says in the chat, trade Brian Olag says trade Devin and Keldon. Now I'm not necessarily a proponent for both, but I wouldn't mind trading Keldon at this point. So like
they're available.
This isn't your. That's what I'm saying. Like this isn't your baptism to administer at this point. If somebody else wants to groom Keldon, whoever they are, wherever they are, however they are, that's up to them. But like I don't want to waste minutes on that. We have a very specific structure of goals around here, and no disrespect intended. It's not the development of Keldon Johnson.
Well, just the sumo nature, the slap of skin when Keldon and the Rhino hit in the paint.
I'm good. I don't need any of that going on.
That's worth getting a ticket for, though, just to go see Zion play. If you haven't had the opportunity to see him in person, he's one of those guys buy a ticket for, because no matter the game, if he's playing, he will do something that you can't believe. To see a guy that size do what he can do, he's worth the price of admission. And one of those
Kool-Aid man breaking through the wall. Like it's never quiet.
Cougs ass. Oh, go ahead.
No.
I'm just getting to our feed as we're going to have to get out of here in a second. On our feed, Cougs ass, does Wesley deserve more minutes?
Yeah. I mean, if you're finding minutes for everyone at this point, not enough for Wemby. You know what I mean? Why not? What is the argument against it? I know this is a question for it. Absolutely. I mean, Rob, you've got a little crush going on.
I do. I champion him. But here's the thing, Cougs, and I know you know hoops, and he knows the answer. Of course he deserves a lot of minutes, but his style of play needs to be regulated. You can't just set him free yet, because he plays at about 11. He plays at an 11 or a 12 sometimes. And sometimes we need you at about an 8. Calm down and see the game. And sometimes he gets lost in that, but that energy can be utilized in short spurts. Just go nuts. Go out and be yourself. And we've seen that. The spurts, the energy that he brings is palpable. Steals in the backcourt. Guards having to look up and think about the game about 5 seconds earlier than they'd like, and it can discombobulate you. And he brings that kind of energy in spurts that sometimes I'd rather see than him get more minutes. I want to make sure that the minutes that he's getting are absolutely appropriate to what he's really good at right now. And that's, I kind of like the way he's being used. So I appreciate, I want him to play more, but I want him to play more minutes that are played appropriately. And sometimes I think the more minutes he gets, the more free he gets. If that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, you said you can't just let the boat go out to sea here.
Just because you deserve it doesn't mean you don't need to keep doing some things in ways that keep you on the court. And Trey Jones doesn't deserve to lose any minutes right now.
You need guidelines, structures, boundaries. Maybe the best way to put this. That's fair.
As you formulate
a team. Take.
But I will tell you, he's the guy that in that draft, when we look back on the grand things and as the pieces were coming together, he might be the guy that we look back on over this 3-4 year span that was like, there's the guy. That was the one. We didn't realize it. And it took us a year and a half or so, but he turned out to be the one, not Malachi, not the guy that we can't talk about, not all the other ones, that he might be the very one. And size is going to be a limitation for him, but the skill set that he brings is something that the Spurs haven't had in a bit. I mean, he really does push the ball in every sense, and something that the Spurs continue to need tonight as they continue to go. We talked about a little yesterday. Jeremy Sohan will not be representing the silver and black anywhere at the All-Star game. And, Pop came out and apologized. Well, didn't apologize, but made his case. It was a bit of a mea culpa, though, I felt like.
I mean, good for Pop, I guess. But
this is Pop. And keep in mind, we've been around Pop for a long time. He's the type that, you are what people say or what you are on the court. I'm not going to say you deserve or don't deserve anything. That's what you are, is what you do on the court. This is him. This is Pop talking about young Jeremy.
I don't know who chooses these things or what the criteria are or anything like that, but he's been great for us, and he's been a two-way player, which are very far and few between in this league. He's played well at the defensive end, the offensive end. He's really grown. Nobody would have believed he'd shoot a three the way he's shooting it right now. So, I think he should be there.
But I put him at the wrong position for about the first quarter of the season, and everybody perceives him as what he was in a position that he should not have been playing, and not the guy that he is right now. That's what he should have finished that out. But I put him in a situation to where people didn't get a chance to see the value that he brings.
It's a little bit of a, all right, everybody, we're not totally going to cry about the spilled milk that I spilled, but, let's not acknowledge either the spiller or the milk. Let's just move on. Let's not spill any milk in the future. You know what I mean? Like, it's, this, I don't know, that it doesn't make me feel better. I mean, I don't have any reason to feel like, are you upset that Jeremy's not a part of this?
Well, I do think it's unfortunate because he does. I mean, look at the guys that are there. You're going to tell me he doesn't belong with them. I mean, it's not like it's a cavalcade of stars that have lapped him in notoriety and ability. It's a bunch of guys just like him, and he's not there because he was told, guess what, for the first half of the season, you're going to go do something you've never done before, and a whole bunch of people.
What are you more upset about relative to context? Wemby not being an all-star or Jeremy not being a part of it?
Well, I think that part of all of it is Wemby would be an all-star if the Spurs had won more games. You can just look at the numbers in history. If you're not winning, ask Trae Young over in Atlanta. If you're not winning games, you don't get to be that's the tiebreaker. So there was a card stacked against him as far as being an all-star. That's on Pop or the way that there's enough talent on this team to have won more basketball games. I'm not saying they're overly talented, but there's 5, 6, 7 more wins in there that the Spurs easily could have had, but for stupid mistakes, both on bench and on the court. I think we'll all going to agree to that. So if there was 5, 6, 7 more wins, I think Wemby at 20 to 21 wins, Wemby's an all-star. At 10, or when they voted at 5, he wasn't.
Nobody's an all-star.
Right.
Yeah, nobody. Yeah, you're right. It's the bracelet to get into the club. You know what I mean? You got to be wearing that at the very least.
So if there was truly an effort to go win basketball games, not only would Wemby be an all-star, Jeremy would be playing in the Rising Star second-year Super International game or whatever they're calling it now. He'd be there. But by design, because the Spurs have chosen, we're not chasing wins. We're still building this house. So that kept his guys out because you got to win. But by stature and by play, Wemby's going to overcome that and be a Roy.
Well, he's going to have he's going to pick up a lot of. You were kind of dancing around this by way of the skills showdown. He's going to pick up a lot of national love.
Oh.
There's a lot of people, whoever that watch other teams throughout the country that don't catch a lot of Spurs games that are going to see him and be like, this dude is amazing. I mean, obviously they're aware of who he is, but like going to get a full opportunity to really kind of appreciate him. And that's when the campaign, I think, takes off to a different level.
RJ, picture this. It is Saturday night. The strobes are going. The party is on. It is a red carpet affair on the sidelines. 7'5" dudes walks onto the court and dribbles the ball in like 4 steps from one side of the court to the other and drills a bounce pass to some, hole in the wall from 60 feet. People are going to be going, what the hell? I mean, it will be. For anybody who sees something for the first time, you just can't stop staring. And you see people literally gawk at him like their jaw drops open when they see him dribble by him. Even though you're an old basketball hand and have seen a lot of things, until you've seen that. And I don't think a lot of people have seen that like they will over the All-Star game. They're going to go, holy crap, this ain't fair.
Right. No, I agree. And I think that he becomes a more national conversation as a result of it all. And he picks up more love. And then maybe the national conversation around the Spurs is, man, how do they not have more wins? They've got that Wemby dude. Like it's a pressure cooker sort of inflection point. I wouldn't even say on the season, but on the current era that we're in.
It would be worthy as if I had an intern, I would assign him. I want you to go back and read the press briefings in New England. And I want you to show me the moment things started turning a little sideways on Belichick. When was the first player? When was the first writer to go, you know what? Things ain't going very well. We should be doing more. Was it, I'd like to correlate that and see when it begins in San Antonio.
I think that the best way to ask that question, not that the way you did sucked, but,
Well, it often does.
Well, is when did he start to lose the benefit of the doubt?
Right.
When did he have to start kind of dipping into the savings on that note? And as I think about it, not as somebody who, knows the Patriots as well as somebody who covers them on a day-to-day basis, but so Tom Brady obviously left for the 2020 season. And I don't know if you recall, the Patriots were a playoff team.
Right.
They were okay. Or no, they weren't that year. I'm sorry. That was the Cam Newton year. And everybody gave them a benefit of the doubt and said, well, they went 7-9. Hey, Cam had some moments, this and that. Then they got Mac Jones and they were a playoff team and they got blasted in the wild card round against
But still, Bills. He had Mac Jones. They got him to the playoffs. Right, what a remarkable thing. Yeah.
So that maybe that's the comp for this year, although the Spurs are not a playoff team, and not that Mac Jones is Wemby, but you get my point. Like there was a breath of fresh air in the franchise. So in 22, so not this past season, but the most recent one, they ultimately finished 8-9 and missed the playoffs and lost 3 of their final 4 games. And so I do think there was a matter of like, man, has this dude kind of lost his fastball a little bit here? Can't really compete. And then this season, obviously, it was just terrible. And I think where they're different is that Belichick had his hands all over roster decisions, and he wanted to bring in Hunter Henry and wanted to bring in Jonnu Smith, and those things didn't really take off. Our criticisms of Pop aren't necessarily that as much as they are just fundamental basketball things, and it feels stupid to question him on those things, obviously, because of who he is. But it's a matter of like, dude, you just keep not winning games and getting destroyed, and you're like afraid of the 3-point line, and you're not afraid of letting anybody shoot from beyond it, and you're not really kind of with modern times, and that's what's working against him right now.
That's the sense you're getting, and I do think you brought up something really important and interesting to follow. As the spotlight hits Wemby and the Spurs, the spotlight will also include the losing record, and the questions are going to start getting asked.
Well, and then it's going to really follow him, and he doesn't, I think, by any measure, seem to be narcissistic. Or
I don't think he's going to take any blame for this because they're going to look at the numbers. Look at what this guy's doing.
No, but the national conversation on the national shows and things like that come, the end of the season will be, do we really want to give the rookie of the year to somebody with 13 wins? You know what I mean? Right. And then it becomes something that's actually holding him back. We've seen that on microscopic levels so far. But I mean, it is going to become something, when the season is over, when it's the totality of it all, that is a glass ceiling on himself, as tall as he is. And that is going to be frustrating. And the frustration against Chet exists, but you're right. Like, it's a dumb, archaic way of looking at it, but wins and losses, they're the better team. He's, whatever. And there will be people who reach that silly conclusion, and the Spurs have no one to blame but themselves. Victor's a victim of that right now, as far as the All-Star game is concerned.
Mm-hmm.
Jeremy's a victim of that right now, as far as the Rising Stars game is concerned. And that would get really annoying if you were just being limited by everything around you, if you were doing your part.
That's the Silver and Black. We do it every day at 7 o'clock. You can listen to it at your leisure. Just make you are subscribed, and you will get the notifications. We thank everybody for listening here. We look forward to a couple of games as this homestand winds down. And don't forget that Rodeo Road Trip's just around the bend. So they're going to be packing a big suitcase, taking some brown jerseys on the road. They need to grab a win or two here, I think, just to get a little bit of self-confidence back after a roller coaster week.